Hey guys, Scott here. I'm just doing a quick little video while I'm installing the PTB. It takes 14 hours to install for some reason, so I thought I'd go over the new perks. I was going to do a separate video for perks and the actual killer power. I've already seen what most of these perks do, and a lot of them are very self-explanatory, so it's something I can do without having actually played the killer or the survivors yet. But in terms of actually making the video about the killer's power and the impressions about all that stuff, I need to wait till I actually play it later. So first, let's start off with the actual perks. Appraisal seems pretty fun and interesting, to be honest. It essentially doubles the amount of chests in a map, because once a chest is already searched, you can search it again as long as you have a token, and other survivors can do this too. So you can have, if 4 survivors that have this perk, you can have like 12, 15 searches of a chest with no additional chest add-ons. It's pretty funny. Now, the only concern I have about this as a killer is it's going to drastically increase the amount of random key escapes that happen, I think. But on the plus side, it's also going to decrease the amount of time survivors are on gens, because they're going to be running around looking for chests and stuff like that. So it's a give and a take. When the luck is not in the killer's favor, I think this will benefit survivors more, because getting a good med kit or a key or something like that can be very game changing. But for the most part, I think this is mostly not going to necessarily be a super meta try-hard tournament perk. It'll just be a fun perk that can occasionally screw the killer over, but it'll also cost a survivor time. So I'm overall okay with it. I think it's a pretty cool idea, to be honest. Deception is an interesting one. Basically, when you fast vault into a locker once every minute, when it's off cooldown, you don't actually fast vault into the locker. You just make the sound as if you are going into the locker. And then you don't leave scratch marks for 3 seconds. So, or it's actually a bit longer than that. It scales with the perk. But the thing is, I think this is not going to be. It might be useful later. But for the first month after this killer comes out, basically anytime you see a locker explosion, you're going to be hesitant to open it. Now, yes, I understand you can do 5,000 IQ shit and actually fast vault into a locker out of line of sight. So people will think, oh, he's using that perk, I'm not going to open the locker. But the thing is, you don't have to go very far. You can just, like, if you hear a locker explosion, you can just search the area really quick. Just because they don't leave scratches, you can still see where they are. Like, it's not going to be that crazy. So instead of immediately open the locker, just scan the area really quick. And if they were debating you, you go down them. If you don't find them, then what's the downside of opening the locker? It's not really that big of a deal. So overall, I think this is going to be more of a meme perk, like head on and red herring and diversion, things like that. But I'm not saying that is going to be useless. This is one of the perks that I kind of have to see more in game to give a really, really fair assessment of. Also, do you like this shitty UI I've just put together? I'm really just waiting for this PTB to install, man. I think I need to go against this a little bit to give a better opinion on it, but my initial assessment is that it's not going to be that useful, especially during the month after this killer comes out, because everybody will be expecting it. So later it might be more useful, but I'm not expecting too much use out of this now, but we'll see. That's probably the only perk out of these that I need to actually test in an actual game. Next is Power Struggle. When being carried by the killer, reaching 35%. I think it's 25% at level 3. Wiggle bar activates Power Struggle. Basically, when you're on the shoulder and you reach 25% of your wiggle bar, you can drop pallets as if you were standing still. So if a killer walks through a pallet, you can drop the power, or you can actually drop the pallet on the killer. So this is going to make killers have to be more mindful of when they walk through pallets. Once they've been on your shoulder for a couple of seconds, they will have to take detours around pallets now, just for fear of this perk even existing. So that in itself is a kind of a buff to all survivors, but this is, it's one of those perks like Any Means Necessary or Unbreakable. It's one of those perks that you're not going to get to use it very often, but when you do, it'll be game changing. But those perks can be pretty fun. So I think this is, again, more of a bit of a meme perk, because it's very easy for a killer to avoid. But when you do get a use out of it, it's going to be very, very funny and entertaining. So I think, it's not necessarily a good perk, but it is kind of a funny perk, and it's going to make killers have to take longer routes to get to hooks, even if you don't have the perk. So overall, it's okay. I think it's really funny, and I can't wait to see people actually use it, but it's not something I would consider meta or anything like that. So overall, I'd say the survivor perks range from decent to just funny and interesting. None of them are inherently god-awful, which is good, but none of them are exactly game-breakingly strong either. So it seems like a lot of just kind of fun, random perks, which, I'm fine with, but I'm curious to hear what survivors would say about that as well, because I'm mostly a killer player. Next, let's go over the actual killer perks. Hoarder. This is basically the antithesis to Appraisal, which is kind of funny. whenever survivor interacts with a chest or they pick up an item, you can get like an explosion of where they are to get a position on them. And this also makes so there's actually more chests in the trial as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a limited use it's a limited use detection perk, which I don't necessarily think is amazing. The only other upside is it decreases the rarity of items found in chests. So if you're worried about dull keys and things like that, this perk could be good to put on. I would imagine the usefulness of Hoarder will be it's going to like start extremely high and then go down and down as people stop using Appraisal more and more. But I'd say, again, for the first month, Hoarder is going to be really useful in preventing people from finding these keys and, very good med kits and things like that. Because we don't know how powerful the rarity of item decreases or the decreases. So I don't. It's really hard to say. We'll never know. It could be 10 years from now. We're still not going to know the exact value that the rarity is decreased. So if it's a decent amount, then it'll actually be pretty good. If it's not a decent amount, then this perk is a limited use, vague, directional awareness information perk at best. So it's probably not something I'd ever use, bar the first month when people are using Appraisal a lot. So pretty average, not great. I don't think I would use it. Oppression. When you damage a generator, up to 3 other gens start regressing as well, and then has a cooldown. This, at first glance, seems like it's very strong, but it's really actually not that strong. I think people are used to the regression of Ruin, and the regression of Ruin is actually pretty scary because that regresses pretty fast. But I don't think people realize how bad just standard regression is. It takes like over 5 minutes to fully regress a gen. It's extremely slow. It's 4 times slower than just the time spent to actually work on the generator, and that's only with 1 person on the gen. You get 2 people on the gen, it goes into like 8 times. It's an order of magnitude slower. So just because gens start regressing is not necessarily amazing. It's not like Surge 2 where it actually, explodes the generator 2 and has a burst of regression at the beginning. It just slowly regresses them. So if you got a lot of mobile survivors on the map, it's really not going to do that much at all. I think this is probably going to be one of the most overestimated perks, and it's going to be significantly weaker than Rune Undying, Pop, things like that. So I don't think I would ever bother with this perk. It's deceptively strong. It's actually not that great because of how bad default regression is. If they change the regression rate or something like that, then I would say it'd be worth looking into. But as it stands right now, I would definitely not use this perk. Finally, is a hilarious perk, Coup de Grace. It doubles the distance of your lunge for every generator done. So you get 5 uses of this total, assuming the match goes for all 5 gens, and it doubles the range of your lunge. Now, that seems like it could be pretty good, but I've actually seen it, and it's actually not that good. The reason is it doesn't double the speed of your lunge to get to the distance in the same amount. It doubles the duration of your lunge. So you don't actually go faster. You just have 150% movement speed for twice the amount of time. So you just sort of slide. You don't go like, it's not like a Wraith Windstorm lunge where you go zooming really fast. It's more like a pig's dash where you go far, but you go the same speed. So it actually has somewhat limited use. It's pretty funny when you combine it with like Wraith and Spirit for their post-power lunge, because then you can combine that and go pretty damn far, and it's funny, but not worth it because you only get 5 uses of it total. The lunge might hit a pallet, you might not be in range, they might have a window, there's just too many, it's way too situational to consider that a good perk. It'll be funny, and I would love to do this on meme builds with like Myers with a tier 3 lunge or something like that. I think it'd be really funny, but it's overall not going to be a very good perk. It's too situational, the lunge is not faster, it's simply longer. Maybe they'll change that, I don't know. What is going on with my lighting adjustment here? Jesus, relax. So yeah, overall, it's not going to be a very good perk. Funny, but not good. I can't see myself using it ever outside of meme builds. It's the fact that it's limited by those 5 tokens that makes it really not great. If there was a way to get more uses out of it, that'd be cool. But, an extended lunge is nice, but it's not so nice to the point you have to lose the entire... You have to have... All your gens have to be done to be able to use it 5 times. And you don't get to choose when you get that lunge because it's based off of the survivors. So it's just too situational. And yeah, I can't imagine very many amazing uses out of it other than for fun and memes. So in terms of meta new perks, things like that, things that'll dethrone DS Unbreakable, Sprint Burst, Borrow Time, Adrenaline, all that stuff, none of these perks will. But it seems like a lot of them are really fun, which is arguably more important. So either way, that is my first impression of these perks. Nothing super game-changing, but a lot of very fun, silly ones. This killer seems very silly. You can fucking kick a baby. I can't wait to get into trying this thing out. But that is it. My PTB is just about done now, so I'm actually going to go stream. But that is it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.